Commissioner Cross?
Here.
Commissioner Derazinski?
Here.
Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Jagger?
Here.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Here.
Commissioner Plummer?
Here.
Commissioner Skolnick?
Excuse.
Commissioner Snyder?
Excuse.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Here.
Commissioner Longmeyer?
Present. Next item is approval of minutes, January 10th. Questions, comments? We move on to roll call. I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now we move on to public comment. Anyone in the audience like to make a comment on any agenda item? Please step forward, please.
Oh, you're up here.
Yes, sir. Name for the record, please.
Dave Ely, Director of Muskegon County Department of Veterans Affairs and Veterans Service Center. And I guess my comments would be addressed to the issue coming up on the Veterans Court. And I would just like to urge the commissioners to pass this, to move it on. It's critical. We would be the first agency or county on this side of the state that has a court. It was one in Lansing now that we're using as a model. It's a high priority for the national government to sit down and get these courts. They've proven that they will more than pay for themselves by keeping individuals that should be incarcerated out of incarceration and in the treatment where they're supposed to be. I talked with the Sheriff's Department and the jail guys, and I'd just like to give you an instance. Currently, as we sit here and I'm speaking to you today, our individual is a veteran, career Major Special Forces, 5 tours in combat, 1 in Bosnia, 2 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress. The government put him out, not fit for duty. That's all done with him, that's all he's done for him. Sent him back home and got in the VA system, and he's being treated for those conditions. And he had an incident at home where he had a flare-up, and it resulted in domestic violence, and he is currently incarcerated in our jail. This gentleman, before being incarcerated, was getting his medications through the VA, and I have his packet here. This man is taking 5 pages, 22 different medications he's on. You know, if you can't fix him, you drug him up, I guess, or whatever. But anyway, as soon as the VA finds out he's incarcerated, all that stops. So now who's got to provide all those medications for him? We, the county has to. And some of these are psychotropics that, I don't care who you are, you're not going to get them into the jail system, you're just not getting in there. So we have an individual that's not being medicated, that's sitting down and percolating. And my concern is, and I was talking with the head of sheriff and the guys down there, is a concern for the sheriff and the personnel in the sheriff's department, the other prisoners, and this individual himself. And he's just a poster child, if you will, from Muskegon County. We have hundreds of individuals just like this young man who've come back from the service with traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress that are out here in our community just percolating. And they do, when they come back, they look for that adrenaline rush they had in war, and they do stupid things, drinking, fast cars, motorcycles, anything to get that rush, and then they get in trouble with the law. So instead of having them incarcerated with the Veterans Court, they can look at these individuals and see what was the underlying cause of this irrational behavior. And if it is post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, well then let's get them in the system. Let's get them into the VA, who's all set to handle them and take these individuals in. The programs are there. We just have to get them. Unfortunately, we have to get them this way through the law. We would much rather have walk in the door or a family member bring them in and get them in the system, because we're ready for them here in Muskegon County. We have the clinic here, we have the support personnel, we have the treatment facility. But the court system, it's just one more thing that's coming down the road, and we think it's an important thing to have, a tremendous adjunct for the services that we already have in place here in Muskegon County. And I'd like for us to stay on the cutting edge and add this to our portfolio of weapons that we have to help these individuals, and that would be this Veterans Court. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to make a comment?
Commissioner, if you don't mind if I can do it from here?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say that what we're doing is, for some of us, Lupe Alvear, excuse me, for some of us, we're reliving the '70s, the early '70s, and we now have the opportunity to do something about it. We didn't back then. And hopefully we can learn from our mistakes, because I remember those days very well. I worked for the state when I came back, and a week didn't go by when somebody said, you know, my neighbor, my friend, my nephew, my cousin, whatever, somebody was in trouble, because it was soon after they came back from Vietnam. But now we have the opportunity to do something. We didn't then, but hopefully those of us who've been through it can step up and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Seeing none, we move on to items for consideration. CPS 12/02-06. Authorize staff to apply for funding for Veterans Court under Category 2 of the Drug Court Enhancement Program.
So moved. Second. Yep. Do we have a judge set up for this program then? Or-
Judy can respond, or District Court.
No, Nancy.
District Court should respond.
Nancy Hennig, District Court Administrator. Judge Nolan has stepped up on this. He's been actually talking about it for a couple of years. He is a vet himself.
So we're plenty prepared for it.
Well, as far as the judge, there's a lot of players that are involved in this. There's 11 or 13 different people. There's the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department. There's a lot of players in this.
Well, I had heard something one time that because of the renovation, there could be a problem with bringing more into the courthouse right now. Will that be a problem, or will we?
Of course, space is always an issue, but I understand this has already been discussed with Ms. Hammersley, and she will find the space, whatever's needed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Any more questions or comments?
Other than a quick comment, and I think Chairman will agree, this is a good thing to do for Muskegon County.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? All those listening?
Well, this is a good example also of how we're upgrading our judicial system. I mean, this is just one component of it. But this is an ongoing situation, and it's very positive.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Moving on to CPS 12/02-07. Authorize the county to hire Plant and Moran to assist in the selection of a vendor who can provide a comprehensive justice system. Second. Thank you.
Anyone get through the rest of it?
All those, any questions, comments?
There's a $5,000 difference between the $88,000. I mean, is it enough reason to hire a company in Michigan
Yes,
over
sir.
another company?
I think so. Plant Moran is a Michigan company. Plant Moran also was the selection of the entire group who looked at this proposal. That included the probate court, the county clerk's office, prosecutor's office, sheriff's department. If I'm leaving anybody out, probate, I said probate, I think. District court. Plant Moran's depth, their expertise in this precise set of systems, and their depth in terms of the personnel they can provide to the project, it's worth every penny of it in my view. And I've implemented one of these. You get what you pay for on this one.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I noticed the difference in those prices, it's like somebody don't know what they're doing, or it's all over the place. And I would hate for us to accept this bid and then to come back for a change order, and then, you know how that goes.
Yes, ma'am, I do. I think that is less likely to happen with this because you are hiring, or I hopefully will hire Plant Moran. They have extensive history with the county. Their history is a good one with the county. And this proposal is for someone to provide us expertise in selecting a vendor. I think when we get to the vendor, the person who will actually buy the software and the system from, I would be much more concerned about this. At this point, they have a consulting role, so I think it's going, I think they'll come in at the price they quoted us.
Mr. Plum.
Mine was on the same order as Ms. Wilkins, but it scares you when you go down to 51,000 compared to 350,000.
I know.
So I'm a firm believer in you throw out that bottom one, throw out the top one, work your way in the middle. I think they did a good job of picking Plant Moran. Thank you.
Anyone else with questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, CPS 12/02-08.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Jagger.
I'm curious of what this is. Enlighten me, sir.
It won't be real easy. Tony Tagg, prosecutor. Basically, the changes in the budget are a result of the cost allocation analysis that the county did recently. So this contract has been in existence for, I've been here for 24 years, and it started way before I took office. But the bottom line is that we submitted a requested budget of what the funding that the state approved. Administration made some changes in it. I'm not sure, Bonnie could probably explain it better than me, but once we have the new cost allocation, which allows for each department to pay more towards administrative costs, we met with administration, changed our budget, resubmitted it to the state, they approved it. So in terms of the actual details of that cost analysis, I think the administrator can probably explain it better.
There was, as you know, we had Maximus do a cost allocation study, and so there were some changes after the budget was proposed, and so just what the prosecutor said was the change increased the cost of the program because the administration cost increased, so we requested more money from the state of Michigan, and they approved it, and there is a little more money from within the county, but that's covered with cost allocation.
So this is a common occurrence that, it can happen?
Yes, it can.
Okay, because it's, you know what I mean?
And we were before we hired Maximus to do our cost allocation study, we had been doing it internally. And so there wasn't a lag between the actual numbers and the budget because it was being done internally. We changed that process because it's a more objective view, and it's actually looked upon better by bonding, by rating agencies if we're done by an objective party.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jagger.
The program must have went up considerable with the, because we had so much reduction in health cost. So it went up actually quite a bit, right?
The cost allocation study did change significantly from how it was being done internally. We did see significant increase in how we were allocating costs across the county. And that's what's reflected here.
So, but it's not a program like it could have run its course, like we're paying more and more and more.
No,
It's a
I
worthwhile program.
think it will level off. It's just that it was a significant change from the way it was being allocated across the county internally as opposed to best practices by bringing in the firm to look at how we should have been doing it. So each year it will be around the same because administration won't change that much.
Is this a good program? I mean, I guess that was.
Yeah, this is our,
substantial.
yeah, this is our child support program where we collect millions of dollars for children whose spouses or whose parents, for whatever reason, have separated. So this has been a very productive program for the county in terms of getting child support money for children.
Commissioner Wood?
Mr. Tony, are we talking about a difference of only $689? The original contract amount was $332,386. Is that what we were talking about? And then it went to the $333,72.
Right. Well, that was our requested budget because we had the state budget at the time. So yes, our requested budget for last year is, our figures actually are the additional cost from the state. They were going to pay us $323 more, and ours was about the same increase from what we originally requested. Yes, so it's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
I think the best way to look at the cost allocation thing is that it allows the county to maximize the amount of money we're getting on state grants and funding. So actually by increasing the cost allocation, we are going to, I think in the long run, actually spend fewer general fund dollars because we can maximize the administrative costs on grants and state funded programs.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Moving on, CPS 12/02-09.
Second.
Commissioner Jackson.
Under the actual motion, it's 26,180, and all the rest of it, I believe, says 26,810, so I don't know what the price is exactly here.
Looks like it's 26,810.
Well, if it's 810, it's actually higher than the Dodge.
Good afternoon, Captain Fulham from the Sheriff's Office. You talk about the difference in the price between the Dodge and the Ford?
No, the motion reads 26,810 here.
I can come around it, whatever you want.
The motion reads 26,810, and up here it says 26.
That's a typo. It's 810, and
Well,
it is higher than the Dodge.
It is higher than the Dodge.
It is higher than the Dodge, yes, that's right.
So he wants to know why you chose not to go.
I'd be happy to answer that. This past year, the big three, if you will, as far as the police fleet goes, everybody did an outstanding job as automotive companies go. We currently have Crown Victorian cruisers in our fleet. The Ford Interceptor, which we are asking for, which is a little more money. One, it will accept all the equipment we currently have. Our screens that are in the back, they're fitted for specific vehicles. If we go with the Dodge or the Chevy, that means we're going to have to buy all new screens for the cars as we move through production. The biggest bonus for the Ford Interceptor is this is the only all-wheel drive pursuit vehicle that's available by the three companies at this time. We know for a fact that this is going to be a great benefit for pursuit driving for officers at higher speeds, and also just getting around on the back of the roads during the winter months. Ford has also implemented the first pursuit-rated kind of an SUV, if you will. And the nice thing about it, if we can look to the future, they're about $2,000 more to purchase one. But from the top of the wheels down, they're the exact same car. So when we're talking about replacing tires, brake pads, things like that, it's the cost savings because we're only doing one thing. But typically, it's because of the all-wheel drive is the reason for the increase in it. And it really kind of offsets it with us not needing to purchase that extra equipment.
When you do the grading system, are we doing a fuel analysis on them too? Do we consider that as part of our grading or not?
The time that I've spent on it, we don't look at that. The difference on this car right here, the Ford, they do have, you can get a different motor. It's a turbo with an EcoBoost on it, and the difference there really is 135 or 145. I don't think we need to be driving around at 145 miles an hour at any time. But, you know, the studies that the Michigan State Police do every year on the vehicles, when they put everything out there, obviously the gas consumption and mileage is something that's rated on there. Okay, but that's not something I specifically looked at here.
Commissioner Plummer.
I was just glad to see one of the county cars out there. Especially when you're only talking that kind of money.
$15.
If it been 200, I wouldn't care.
Commissioner Derasinski.
You know, that vehicle you're asking for has a heck of a proven track record.
Yes, sir.
And the cost difference there, to me, I'd rather see how these work out before I would want to change anything.
We've been very happy with the Ford.
I thought they quit making them.
Actually, Chevy quit. Everybody quit except for Ford. But Ford quit with the Crown Vics, the full size. I mean, the Police Interceptor, it's off a Taurus frame, but it's still, I mean, you sit inside of the things that they've done with the cars these days, you know, one of the bonus, and I'll just throw it out there, that Chevrolet's done, you know, the back doors open almost at a 90. Makes it much easier placing individuals in a car and getting them out, you know, and maybe Ford will follow that in the long run. But trunk space, additional batteries, things like that. The vehicles that they're creating today for law enforcement are exactly that, for law enforcement.
What happens to these pursuit-rated vehicles? They're hot cars. I have Chevy that was pursuit-rated. I mean, they just go for auction. They're fun to
You
drive.
never see them on auction.
Yeah, by the time they're at auction, they're just like everybody else. They're a little tired. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to have one.
Any more questions, comments? I have one question. How long do these vehicles last? Is it 10 years, 15 years?
No, sir. No. We,
Not like my car.
Unlike the days when, I mean, at the sheriff's office, we do have take-home cars. The officers are assigned a vehicle that lasts a lot longer. One individual driving it, the car is consistent with that person. They're better maintained. We can get anywhere from, I'm thinking right now about 5 years is what we're getting out of these cars, 5 to 6 years. You know, normally when we were transferring through one car, it would almost get us through a year, about 150,000 miles, 160. Well, that's now taking us about 5 years.
Thank you. Anyone else, questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have an addendum. We have before the commissioners, CPS 12/02-10 from the administration. Questions? Commissioner Jackson.
I think I'll ask Scott's question. Do we have any idea how many beds we're gonna go after? If you're gonna look into buildings or?
We would have to have someone who had the expertise of looking at a formula, and that's what we hope we will find through this consultant, who'll be able to tell us what we need. The type of expert that we would need is someone who's done jails and who can take into consideration the programming that we're doing, the population. There's a formula that they use to determine that, and Muskegon County does have a number of programs and have put in more programs, just like the Veterans Court. That's going to impact jail beds, and so we need someone that does planning out from now. And so, no, we don't have a number. I think the sheriff has a number in mind that we've talked about, but we really need to have that confirmed by someone who can look at a long-range plan and determine what the needs of the county are.
Commissioner Plummer.
How long is this gonna take? Do you have any, going out this way, I mean, do you have any idea what we're looking at?
Well, we can, once we put an RFP out, it can be, 4 to 6 weeks that it would come back and be evaluated. The goal is that the strategic planning jail committee that was created from strategic planning will evaluate the RFP and recommend to the board who should do this. And then the committee also will be responsible for identifying the sites that this consultant will look at. And so,
I
I
didn't know
don't
what,
think.
you know, the overall process.
No, I think that we're on a track to move, but I don't have a time frame in mind. I mean, that's going to be determined by my bosses, the commissioners, but we will provide the information needed so that you can determine the time frame.
Yes, I would think that we would need a figure to start with, because if we don't want to build something and let them come, we need a figure that we need to really look at, we know it's going to be more than 400, but we need a figure for them to get some kind of idea, don't we?
Well,
to start from.
Sure, they'll look at, and we've already had, as you know, a feasibility, yeah. To the Where are you hiding?
Over there. Dean Rossler, County Sheriff. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a very legitimate question. Everything I've looked at and the people I've talked to and that the different numbers we've crunched is we're probably going to be looking at anywhere between 500 and 600 bed total, which is 130 to 230 above our current rated capacity. And you know, the administrator is absolutely right. Some of the things that we need to digest and to filter through is the current programs we have in place that weren't in place previously. What the opportunity is, quite honestly, to partner with like the State Department of Corrections or even our federal partners as far as providing needed bed space for them, which could then in turn become a potential revenue generator, and how many beds that would translate into for those partners. So there's a variety, a number of variables that will impact the final bed number. But, and I realize 500, 600 is kind of seems like a big gap, but that seems to be what we'd be looking at right now.
In addition to that, Sheriff, could we also look at the possibility of renting space maybe to someone later as overcrowding or something to make revenue for the county?
Yeah, and that goes back to working with the State Department of Corrections on what their bed needs are at the local level, and potentially, again, some federal prisoners that we might be able to house, depending on, again, what their needs are in terms of capacity. It's really difficult to pin down another county in terms of renting bed space to other counties, because quite honestly, a lot of counties have gotten away from renting bed space in neighboring or related counties just because of the costs involved. But in conversations with the Department of Corrections, they're very interested in talking about some type of partnership. There's no specifics have been worked out. Just as a for instance, currently, because of the lack of bed space we have, if a person's brought in a parole violation, I have a rule that person has to be turned around within 72 hours to get them out of our facility. So what happens is the Department of Corrections then finds a bed, generally up in Mason County or Isabella or some other site that they can take this parole violator to and hold them until the parole hearing process is done and the determination is made on the parole violation. Well, the downside of that is the state pays $35 a day to house a parole violator. And so for those 3 days or so that we have them, we do make a little bit of revenue. But Mason and Isabella and the other counties are holding them for a longer term, so they're making more revenue. If we had the adequate bed space, I could hold that parole violator the entire time that, and they have 45 days to have their parole violation adjudicated. So we could theoretically hold that parole violator for the entire 45 days at $35 a day, which again is potential revenue now. So there's a lot of room to work in that kind of arena.
Thank you.
Gross. Yeah, I was wondering how many different properties do you have in mind for them to do a feasibility study on?
Well, I'm going to defer that back to the administrator because I don't know.
That is actually going to be
Yeah.
decided by the jail committee that was created through the strategic planning. So we'll ask for that group to, we'll bring, the administration will bring our real estate agent in and talk about the area.
I think your motion indicates that the prison. The Muskegon prison site is no longer an option. The state wants to keep that in their inventory for whatever their purpose is. Yeah, I mean, the part of the study, I think, would be to look at potential sites and have the consultant come up with a best choice type option.
Great, thanks.
Mr. Derazinski.
Two things. One is, it warms my heart to see this board warming up to this idea. We've got to do something. The second one is you talk about renting a jail space. We had to do that. In fact, if I recall, we were forced to do that by a judge out of Grand Rapids. And it cost this county, I want to say millions, I might be exaggerating, but it cost us dearly. Do you recall that? Sheriff?
Well, that was before my time with sheriff's, being involved with the sheriff's office. Captain Poulin was around then, he might. It was a couple million annually, if I remember the media, the press coverage that was geared towards that. So, I mean, it's a big chunk of change to rent out county bed space.
And we were forced to do that because of the condition of our jail, and I'm hoping I'm 100% accurate on this, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I wish someone could help me be a little more specific, but it cost us millions of dollars, same jail. Okay, I just want to throw a little more gasoline on my jail fire, if I can.
Mr. Jagger?
Okay, never mind.
I was just gonna ask if the president was on them, but it's not gonna happen without the president.
Right, the sheriff and the county board chair and I had a conference call today with DOC, and they indicated that that was no longer available.
Anyone else?
Comment here. This is a process. It will take us a little while, but we will be doing it correctly and moving forward in a methodical fashion to make sure that whatever we come up with will be the best solution that's going to work for this jail. There's been a lot of false starts in the past. We moved forward and stalled, but not this time. We need to move forward, and we will continue to move forward.
Sheriff, one question I have. If, other than the obvious structure of the facility and the safety of your staff and inmates, do you see any overcrowding once the new facility is up and running? And if we get to a point again where we have overcrowding, something's going on in the society, and
Well, Commissioner, I mean, I wish I had.
I don't mean for you, but
yeah, no, you know, jail crowding is due to a number of variables, and I don't know if you want me to stand up here and try and lay that all for you.
No, you don't have to be a sociologist, you know, just.
No, I would say, from my perspective, you know, a 600-bed facility would suit the needs for many, many years, as far as I can tell from where I'm standing presently. Now, one of the things I'm sure that the consultant or this study would look for is the ability to expand for future needs based on changing attitudes at the state level, changing things that we just don't know what's coming down the pipe. So, you know, could we fill it? Yeah, I suppose we probably could, but again, it's not so much that we want to just fill up the jail. The one thing that I'd like to emphasize is that all the programs we put into place, or all the programs we want to put into place, or the future programs that we don't even have yet that we might want to put into place, none of them will succeed unless there is adequate jail space as kind of a fallback penalty for not succeeding in those programs. And I hope I said that right. And that's one of the things that we struggle with every day.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on, CPS 12/03-11. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on now to old business. Is there any old business? Commissioner Delazinski.
Yes, a couple of years ago, we cut from our budget the cost of providing for the motor patrol, the motorcycles we have. And Ken has graciously agreed to allow me to see if I can raise that money elsewhere, which we did last year. And I have it all now raised for this year. I wanted to make sure the checks were in hand, or at least the boards approved it. But I'd like to ask this board at the meeting of the 12th, which is a full board, if we could recognize, and the price doubled between the 2 years, if we could recognize these groups which are sponsoring them. And I have the list. I know all their boards have approved it. Power Tour did one. Family Events is going to do one. They're the promoter for both Bike Time and the Power Tour. John Blamer, who's he with?
American Legion Post, Houghton.
American Legion Post out of Houghton in Abeta, Michigan. If we could at that, might maybe have I'll hand you the check, get a picture, and Eric's here from the Chronicle, if we could just give a little recognition. And maybe it'll be easier to do it next year. And maybe some others will come through that I've thrown out but now that I have them covered, I'd ask that we could do that.
Certainly not a problem.
And maybe,
You don't need a motion.
no, don't need a motion, but a little proclamation of thank you, or a letter of thank you.
We'll make sure it's on the board agenda for the
Okay,
14th.
just something small, maybe for the, okay, thank you. Will you be here, Mike?
That's the 14th of this month?
Is the 14th?
Yes, the 14th is
14th, I
correct.
said 12. Okay, but anyways, I
Next
appreciate it.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Anyone else with old business? Old business. Any new business? Seeing none, anyone in the audience like to make a public comment on a new topic? No one? Motion to adjourn.